Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Commentary's Magic Stream on today, Sunday, May 18th, 2025. I am, as always, Grand Pause.
Big Cheese.
Arcat and
Who cares who I am? Everyone say happy birthday to GP.
Happy birthday, GP.
regretful lap around the sun. You're older now. Sorry.
I am older, but I've already taken my painkillers for the day, so I'm here ready for stream, and I wish I was lying about that.
Is your back killing you too?
Yes, it actually is.
It could be worse. Could be the knees.
It could be the knees, and they will be the next thing to go, I'm sure.
It's right there. It's right there.
I mean, true story, I remember not 10 years ago kneeling or sitting, squatting at my coffee table, sorting cards or playtesting for this game for hours on end with relatively little difficulty. I can't sort stuff for more than about half an hour before I just want to roll over and die.
Yeah.
Is this because you took an arrow to the knee?
Maybe. I didn't even play that much Skyrim, although I have been planning on playing it a bit more frequently recently, so we'll see.
10-year-old game.
Which of the 14
12-year-old
versions
game.
of Skyrim?
Well, sadly, the one I wanted to mod I don't own because I only own the original. I don't even own the anniversary edition or the special edition, so I'd have to go spend like another $50 on Skyrim. And this, see, look, I'm even doing old man complainy rants now too.
Anyway.
Todd Howard will get your money.
All I did was just raise the gate.
Tom Howard doesn't need more of my money. Tom Howard needs more of everyone's money. You know who else needs more of everyone's money? Hasbro. Boy, those words taste terrible. Ugh. Ugh. Anyway.
Go on.
Yeah.
Why are we giving our evil overlords more money, GP?
Because they're making more pretty ponies.
Pretty ponies, yay.
How pretty are the ponies?
The ponies are very pretty. I would go so far as to say that some of the cards that we're going to be talking about today, or making vague references to today, are better looking, better quality cards than anything Enterplay ever produced for the CCG. And I know that's a bold claim because there are some very pretty CCG cards out there. But just wait till you see what a couple of these other guys have cooking. But if we're not talking about the CCG, then that begs the question of, what are we talking about?
The CG.
The community guests?
Yeah, the community guests.
We are in fact not talking about the community guests.
Surely not.
No, Cheese is right. We are in fact talking about just the CG this time around. The card game.
Such a great differentiator.
Right? Oh, yeah, speaking of differentiation, because clearly the name of this game is the only thing that needs a little bit more clarity when it comes to differentiation. It's just the title, really. This is called foreshadowing, by the way. So let's dive in, right? What are we doing? What are we talking about? Who are these companies that we have made vague references to as being our evil overlords and also the ones responsible for making very, very pretty ponies?
Yeah, so Caillou, which has been producing pony content for quite a few years now, I think it's like 2 or 3 years.
At least, right?
Yeah. And they're a pretty big like collectible thing producer. Like, it's kind of just Interplay at a bigger scale. They sell lots of little anime toys and whatnot. And they just last month announced that they're doing a My Little Pony card game. And it's actually already been released in China, but they say it's the first global pony card game.
And then we're immediately called out on this.
Yes. Like, sure, if they translate it, it will be the first pony card game that was translated, officially.
Sure.
But yes.
That's an if. Well, it's a when question.
When, yes.
But I believe we got this news almost a month ago. I think it was mid-April, because it was just
it was
a
a bit
few
before
days.
Babs, yeah.
Right. And it kind of came out of nowhere. Now, Caillou, like Cheese alluded to, has made a large quantity of collectible content for MLP and other franchises for years. And if you've been at a pony convention in the CCG room at any point for the last 3 years, and you've seen some of our international friends who have come over from across the big pond and brought some of these Caillou packs with them, you know what some of these cards have looked like before. The foiling and the rarities and all that sort of stuff. But up until this point, Caillou, as far as we are aware, has never produced a game. Also, very much like Enterplay.
About to say, this sounds real familiar.
Yeah,
doesn't
it is very much the story of Interplay, just at a slightly bigger scale. And, like 10 years later.
Right. Because we didn't learn anything. Dear Princess Hasbro. That being said, there are a couple of things that are being done differently here. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more in detail. But first, let's just cover the basics of this. What is this game? It is a collectible card game, right? It's sold in booster packs. It has trial decks, which are kind of like intro decks that are available. It has starter decks, which are much more like the theme decks that the CCG used to sell, or like starter decks that we've produced if you've seen them at conventions before. And there has been an announcement for booster packs as part of the first official collectible set, which we just don't have a translated name for right now. The set abbreviation is effectively BP1. Is that right?
Yeah, BPO1. Booster Pack
BPO1.
1.
Right.
I mean, I've got to admire this just for, like, what is this? Oh, it's the first set. It's a booster pack. Wait.
BPO1.
Which set was Crystal Games again?
Was Celestial Solstice a set?
It's actually Berry Punches #1.
I don't think there's any Berry Punch in it.
Bryce Field #1.
That you're aware of.
That's true. There could be Berry
We
Punch
don't
later.
have the
We don't
list
know.
yet. Yeah.
We do have the list for the theme decks, and we do have the list for the starter decks, but we'll get to that in a second. Let's maybe take a look at this here for a moment. You may see a couple of card types referenced on here, or names that seem vaguely familiar, like a main character card or character card. And you think, the CCG had character cards. But then there's these story cards, which are sideways, kind of like problems, but problems are, slightly different and have different numbers and stats and text on them. And scene cards are completely different. So, what the heck is going on?
Yeah, what is going on?
Well, let's give the most succinct summary for this game that we possibly can. In Caillou's My Little Pony card game, players are going to play characters, events, items, and scenes. You're going to interact with opposing characters, and you're going to disrupt your opponent's schemes while you are advancing your own story. The first person who advances to the 4th chapter of their own story wins the game.
Very simple.
It is.
These are rather short books. Are these Twilight approved books, given how short they are?
Twilight would like more information, please.
No. That's it. That's all you get.
Only if you can read Chinese.
You know who can read Chinese? ChatGPT.
Yes, it can.
After a little prompting.
Yeah. It did a pretty good job. We've I guess somewhat verified because there are a few people that speak Chinese that are and speak English that are talking with us, and so I think we verified most of our understanding.
Yes. So maybe it's a good idea if we take a look at the similarities and the differences between the collectible card game and Caillou's card game. Let's start with one of the easiest things to compare: card types.
Hey,
All
look.
right, so
Characters, events, not resources.
not resources. That's right. And then we have main characters, scenes, and story. The top 3 cards that you see here are all card types that effectively have an analog in the CCG. Characters, as they are called in Caillou's game, are akin to friends. They are played from your hand to one of 3 particular locations that exist in the game. We'll get into that in a second. They have a cost in the upper left-hand corner, which is called their harmony. They have a power in their bottom right-hand corner, which is called inspiration. And they may or may not have abilities. They're also going to have names and traits. So looking here, we have a Fluttershy who costs 7, has 8 inspiration, does have an ability, that's the thing in the red text right there, and has the traits of Fluttershy and Pegasus. Her name is Fluttershy.
Her name is Flutter Flutter.
Yes, her name is Flutter Flutter, that's true, or Shy Shy.
Does she have a subtitle?
What are subtitles in relation to this game?
What are subtitles,
They
Precious?
don't exist. There are already 10 cards called Fluttershy at least. And just in the starter and trial decks.
Correct. Currently, the only way we have of differentiating cards is by their mechanical stats or the collector's number. Characters are just called whatever they are. Flutters is Flutters, Twy is Twy, Trixie is Trixie. Okay, but those are characters. They're very much like friends. You may notice they don't have requirements on them. Requirements are not a thing in this game. We'll get more into that later. Now we have events. Anyone want to take a shot at how events work?
Ooh, I know.
Okay, tell us, Cheese.
You pay their cost. Well, first you reveal them, then you pay their cost, and then they do something, and then they go in your discard pile. Or your
Rest area?
Your rest area. There we go.
People are still going to call it the graveyard after all these years. And it's more correct in this game than it was in the CCG because at least this one is co-sponsored by Hasbro.
True.
But yes, that's exactly correct. Events function the exact same way. Pay their cost, do a thing, card goes away. Third card type, most players may be familiar with, items. These are very similar to resources. They have a cost, they are played onto characters. At least so far, I believe every item is played onto characters.
I think so, yeah.
Each item will specify what type of character it can be played on. Some will just say play on one of your characters, some will say play on an opponent's character, some will say play on a character with a specific name. Fluttershy, Pinky, etc., etc. And the card will produce an effect, usually a persistent or a continuous effect, as long as it is in play or attached to that character. It is worth noting that both characters and I think maybe items have the ability to exhaust to do things. I don't remember if items have exhaust abilities. I know some characters do.
So there's exhaustion.
Sort of. It's tapping. And I believe the official term will actually be tap, but don't quote me on that.
Yeah, I think in Chinese, someone said it was using the same terms that they use for tap and untap.
Right, so it's either tap and untap, or it's sleep and stand, I believe were the other ones.
Yeah, with some of the translation we were getting.
Yeah. Items give the ability to exhaust. Okay, so some items, some resources effectively will give an ability to the character they're attached to allow them to exhaust to do things. Now, you might be sitting here looking at the main character down in the bottom left and saying, well, what the heck? Why didn't you talk about main characters? We had mains in the CCG. We have mains in the CG too. Surely they're similar, right? Wrong.
Surely they do so much.
Surely they are the most impactful part of the game. It is, in fact, the opposite.
You can replace your main with a plush, as long as it is small.
You can replace your main with anything. A main character serves solely as a marker to indicate which chapter of your own story you have managed to advance to. That being said, they are some of the prettiest cards that exist within the available card selection so far.
Yeah, and there's basically no limits on what can be on the card. It's just, is it card shaped? Cool.
We're going to make it pretty.
And they have. Second among new card types are scenes. Scenes are cards that are kind of like lands in Magic the Gathering, if you've played that game before. They're played to an area behind a player's characters, and they are exhausted or tapped to produce harmony, the resource that's used to pay the cost of cards, in an equal amount to the number of scenes that are tapped this way. As I mentioned earlier, there's no color for harmony produced by scene cards. Any scene card can help pay the harmony cost of other cards to allow it to be played. However, every scene card that we have so far also has an ability called an Inspire ability, which corresponds to one of the 6 main characters. And that ability is character specific. So while you might have Carousel Boutique or Sugar Cube Corner or Golden Oak Library and be able to tap any of those scene cards to pay the cost of any character, any event, or any item, those cards will be able to only use their Inspire ability on Rarity or Pinky or Twilight, respectively.
Background ponies aren't inspirational enough.
Not yet, anyway. It is worth noting that scene cards do not get shuffled into your normal deck. Instead, every player will have exactly 15 scene cards in their scene deck. And you'll get one of them into play at the start of each of your turns, and one that starts in play at the beginning of the game. And it progresses that way through the entire game. So once you get to turn 15, no one's getting any more scene cards. Or once you get past turn 15, I should say. I guess technically turn 14, right?
Yeah, this is very similar to Hearthstone in terms of ability to pay.
Right. Hearthstone, Force of Will, any of those games that have a very linear scaling of the resources you have available.
Slay the Spire, I think.
Mm-hmm. Now, that Inspire ability, just because it's restricted, don't think that that means that you should, ignore scene cards. Scene cards still present one of the most interesting and meaningful interactions in this game, and we'll get to that here in a second.
Stories. I like the stories. It's cute. They just take an episode and break it up into 4 cards. They each do a little thing. And those are your stories.
I mean, basically, yeah. And it's kind of fun, right? Because it feels a bit like if people have played the Renegade deck building game, where a lot of those, I don't remember what they called the cards, but the challenges to overcome were based on episodes from the show. It's the same thing. You're kind of playing through an episode of the show. Just like scene cards, story cards may correspond to particular characters in terms of the abilities that they have. But any deck can run any story if you so choose. And so far, every single set of story cards that we have has the same effect for when you reach the 4th chapter of the story, which is you win the game. I don't expect that to change anytime soon.
Yeah. So there is no built-in rule for sorry. There is only one built-in rule for winning the game, and that is your opponent decking out. But other than that, there's no built-in rule for winning.
Yeah, the learn to play guides will tell you that you win when the first player advances their story to chapter 4, and that is correct. And I, again, don't expect it to change soon, but technically they do have the same rule listed on Stories Chapter 4, so they could change it if they wanted to. I don't know why they would. Please do not force us to play Mill. Not again.
You'll play Mill anyway.
I will play Mill anyway. Actually, no, we can't. We did play Mill when we got the rules wrong, and then we got the rules right, and then the game ended about 20 turns earlier.
Yeah.
So we're gonna not mill, is what I'm hearing.
We're gonna not mill. Why are we gonna not mill? Why can't we just sit there and mill? Why can't we just sit there and play control? What's going on? How does this work? I think the easiest way to demonstrate this is with a layout, a screenshot from the mod that we have created for Tabletop Simulator. Yes, there is already a mod for TTS. Before you ask, yes, there is already a Ponyhead instance.
It's terrible, but it exists.
It's bad, but it's there. Using limited
It
knowledge
functions.
and thinking sand translation abilities, there was an infrastructure to allow people to play this game within the first week since China got access to cards. We collective we. That's not the royal we. That's not the royal we. That is the unroyal we. We the community. Hi, my name is Sim, and we've been card addicts since 2014. Hi, Sim.
Oh my god.
True.
What do you mean 2014? Keep going.
Yeah. All right. So, taking a look here at the layout, you can see that there are a couple of characters that are here in play. There are story cards that have scheme cards placed over them face down. Rarity has managed to advance to the next stage of her story, which is technically illegal because she hasn't disrupted the opponent's story yet.
Oh, I did it in the wrong direction, didn't I?
Yeah.
Let me fix that.
That's okay. Do we want to just cut over to the live TTS?
Yeah, I'm gonna cut over. I forgot. It's that part is very confusing.
It is.
Should be over now, yeah.
Yes. Okay. There we go. All right. Those 3 spots, those columns or lanes that you see on the center of the table, those are the 3 spots for your characters. That's it. You get 3. Your opponent gets 3 too. Your story cards are placed in front of you. Scheme cards are placed face down. Scheme cards are kind of like reverse prize cards from Pokemon. It's 4 random cards dealt off the top of your deck at the start of the game during setup, and as your opponent disrupts your scheme, you get to reveal that card and either process a scheme effect if it has one, or put it into your hand if it doesn't. It's a consolation prize. Hi, Pancake. You can see Our scene cards are played behind our story cards. They're tapped sideways to show that they have been used to pay for the harmony cost of cards. But they are also turned face down for this thing called inspiration. And in order to understand inspiration, we need to talk about interaction. So interaction is the main method of competition that players and their opponents are going to enter into over the course of a game. It primarily consists of comparing the inspiration values of characters within one of the 3 lanes or columns the game allows characters to be played in. And the player with the least amount of inspiration will have that character dismissed, effectively. However, it's during these interactions, which happen on every player's turn after the first turn for each player, and happen in a specified order indicated by the arrow that you see on the table. So, in this case, Rainbow Dash is going second. So, her interaction is right to left. Rarity was first player, her interaction is left to right. And as you compare the inspiration value of your cards that are interacting, the person whose turn it is will get the chance to inspire one of their characters using their scene cards. If you have a scene card that matches the name or, has the name of one of your characters mentioned on it, you can turn that scene card face down, regardless of whether or not it is tapped or untapped, to give a character with that name, one of your characters with that name, +1 inspiration during that, what do they call it, conversation, interaction, whatever the term is.
It's either conversation or interaction, depending on the translator.
Right. Once the turn player has chosen whether or not to inspire and how much to inspire, non-turn player will get a chance to do the same. Once non-turn player has chosen, that's it. It does not go back and forth. So it's turn player, non-turn player, compare values.
No equivalent of back and forth to flip your entire deck.
Right. If you end up with more inspiration, congratulations! Your opponent's character is dismissed and that lane is clear for you for the next turn, assuming your opponent doesn't play something to that spot. If you interact while your opponent has no characters in that lane, like for example, if it's Rainbow Dash's turn and she's going to begin her interactions or conversations, in that first column, the one all the way over on the far right, her opponent has no character. This means Rainbow can have the choice of either disrupting an opponent's scheme, which, as we mentioned before, means revealing the opponent's scheme card on their lowest number story, doing whatever it says, or putting it into their opponent's hand. Or, if their opponent's story has no scheme card on it, the player can advance their own story of the same level. So, if Rainbow has not advanced yet, and her opponent has no scheme card on story 1, she can advance to story 1. What this means is that, generally speaking, the order that you're going to see people choose to perform these one-sided interactions or conversations in is disrupt, then advance, then disrupt, then advance, disrupt, advance, disrupt, advance, and that will be the end of the game.
Sorry.
Yes. 1 and 2 do not have any abilities, 3 draws a card, 4 wins the game. There are scene cards that do have abilities on, or story cards that do have abilities on them, though. I'm gonna find a couple of them.
Yeah, like when the story reaches the stage, draw 1 card.
And so you can see how Cheese was talking about all the stories are basically an episode split up among 4 cards. This mod that you're seeing right now is open and accessible right now. We'll have links at the end of the stream if anyone is not already a member of the Discord server supporting this new game. And all the links are within said server.
Oh, spoilers, there's a Discord for it?
Oh, spoilers, yeah. As previously mentioned, there is no specific color requirement to characters, though some scene cards inspiration all scene cards inspiration abilities and some item cards abilities only work for specifically named characters. So if you're willing to pass the ability to inspire characters because you want to play a character that has particular, power or a particular ability, you can absolutely do so. You can never get color screwed in this game. You can only get inspiration screwed.
Yep.
And as you can see, due to a finite number of columns that are here, the maximum number of characters that any player is currently allowed to have in play is 3.
So choose wisely when you're playing cards.
Yep.
Yeah. Rainbow Dash is actually, I think, in a bad position here.
Let's see. She up on the right, up on the middle, and up on the left.
She's up everywhere, but she's full with low power.
What's in her hand right now? She's got a nice event and a 4-cost rainbow and a tank. I mean, she's got the rainbow and the tank. That's not that bad, although that rainbow's not likely to do a whole lot.
Draw a card. Let's see what her turn draw would be.
Even bigger rainbow.
It is an even bigger rainbow.
There's a lot of even bigger. There's a lot of full steams.
There are a lot of full steams, and as weird as it might sound, sometimes that's all that counts. Early on in this game, power is kind of king. Pancake asks a good question. What happens when you tie in a conversation or an interaction? Both characters are dismissed. The column clears.
Yeah, so here they would, and nobody inspires, then they would both. I forget if this actually has a discard pile in the setup.
It does not have a specified spot for the discard pile, but it's above the player's main deck, which is on the right side.
Yeah.
I think, or left side. And it's gone. All gone. That's right, Hithrock. By the way, if anyone has any questions as we're continuing to talk about this, please feel free to type them in the chat. We'll be happy to answer them. We don't want to spend a whole bunch of time getting into the nitty-gritty of the game. This is mostly a general overview. Hithrock, I'm obligated to say Trixie because they've spoiled that she's coming in BP01.
We don't even get to remove Trixies. It's so sad.
It is.
Unfortunate. But you know what we don't have to deal with right now?
Chrysalis?
Printing cards?
That is unfortunate. That's fortunate, but we don't have to deal with the traitor to the hive.
This is true. They are so far from that season.
You say that, but you do realize I'm going to be using my Rainbow Rare Thorax Caillou card.
You can.
Should. By the way, Prism Light is correct. The best number is currently 9, according to BP01.
Already with the power.
Yeah. First set, we're already power creeping over the starter decks. I mean, if the first set didn't power creep over the starter decks, I would have questions.
That would be a little sad, yeah. Yeah, the starter decks, and particularly the trial decks, are very much like, if you ever played the intro to the CCG at when Interplay was doing it, those decks were very simple.
And you're talking like the family rules?
No, not the family rules. Just
I think he's talking about Pony Primer.
Yeah, the Pony Primer. Just like, it had a lot of vanilla and a lot of really simple cards, and the decks were particularly not well constructed, so the game was very slow. So like it was not a particularly good introduction to the CCG. So we'll find out how close the starter decks are to a good introduction to the CG.
What we can say is that the trial decks, which, as far as we understand, were basically given out to people who participated in the launch events in China and a few other countries as well, I believe, do not have any abilities on any of their characters. They have a couple item cards, they have a couple event cards, and they have they have story decks that only have abilities on two of the cards. So they are very, very simple. The starter decks, on the other hand, like I mentioned, more like the theme decks for Interplay, do have abilities on some of their characters, do have more complex story cards, and are likely to be a better source of uh, competitively viable cards. So, with that general overview, with 3 out of the 4 of us having played this game and already tried to optimize it partially, uh, what do we think?
It's a game. No. Yes, it is a game. But it's a lot simpler than the CCG. Significantly less just like general concepts in the game itself, and then also in the cards so far that we've seen. But there's been a lot of room for like, it would be cool if there was a card that did this or this or this. There's like a lot of room for the card pool to make it more interesting. And it's very pretty.
Yeah, there's definitely keeping it simple here at the beginning, but with simple rules, you got a lot of really goofy things down the line. Like, look at Magic's first set and compare it to Magic's more recent sets. Doesn't even seem like the same game.
It's true. And I think that's one of the more interesting things here early on is the game itself may not be crazy mechanically complex now, and that's kind of okay because there's a lot of people that would argue that's why the CCG kind of failed is it missed its target audience.
Yeah, there was a lot of that opinion.
The mechanics of the collectible card game really did not cater to the primary fan base of the show at that point in time. It catered more to collectible card game players, and you just had to find the overlap there. So it's nice to have something that's more approachable, that is easy to teach, and I mean easy to teach. I think, Cheese, you made the comment that if you as a new player sit down and watch a game or play a game for about 2 turns, you understand it. You understand the flow of the game, you understand the rules of the game, you understand how it works.
Pretty much, yeah.
The game can be taught in about 5 minutes.
Which is a lot better than the CCG, where it is, okay, sit down.
How do troublemakers work?
You're going to be here a while.
Let's talk about phases. Let's talk about steps. Let's talk about priorities. Let's talk about boosting cards. Let's talk.
Oh no, troublemakers!
But
Idiot. What are all these phases?
What does make this fun, as both Ivory and Cheese have mentioned, is as we're playing this simple game, as we're walking through it and kind of understanding how it works, every time you have a card that does something, or every time you follow the general rule structure or turn structure of the game, you start seeing opportunities where future cards' abilities could mess with that somehow. And you think, boy, that would be really cool if it would let you do this. For example, this could be things as simple as scene cards that would allow you to inspire characters other than the main 6, or maybe have a choice of which character you could inspire.
Or a way to reset scene cards, or...
Right, or a way to reset scene cards, or a way to add additional spaces for you to be able to play a character, or a way for you to add additional scene cards into play beyond the one you get each turn, or who knows, or to have a Queen Novo effect where low power in fact wins that particular lane.
You could be mean and move your opponent's character back in time and put it back to an earlier part of their story.
That would be a great one, right? Resetting your scheme cards on there, right? What about manipulating the order in
Great,
which...
quote unquote.
Let's manipulate the order that opponents' characters are in their lanes. Let's switch the position of two of them. You know, any of these things would be really cool to do and add a whole other level of play and complexity to the game, and it wouldn't really require much. There's a ton of potential for what could come. But right now, that's all it is. It's potential.
I mean, there's also analogs if you look back in the CCG's early history. Okay, here's my Rainbow Dash deck. I'm just gonna blah, and troublemakers are just like, we didn't understand that troublemakers go away after problems get
The funny
replaced.
days,
So yeah, that was a weird time. But look at it now.
Do we have to?
No. I mean, look at the game now is compared to the first set. There's much more complexity and interesting lines of play. It's almost a different game.
Yeah, it kind of is. So finally, this begs the question, well, if Sim has been obsessing over the MLP CCG for the last 10 years plus, what are we planning on doing with the CG? And it's kind of up in the air.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's something new. It's pretty, and it's a little fun to play so far. So we'll try it out. See if there's actually an English release. I guess also there's a big question of like, what's the organized play support from Caillou and Hasbro going to be? Because apparently Hasbro is assisting or helping or participating or something with organized play.
They haven't really made it clear what their role is going to be in that yet. They just said it will exist.
It's some type of partnership, some type of joint effort between Caillou and Hasbro. So they're not just leaving Caillou to their own devices, having never made a game before, as far as we're aware. Which, all right, lessons learned, I guess. And admittedly, if you're going to talk about gaming institutions that have experience in creating global organized play tournament structure and organization, it's kind of hard to point at anything other than like TPCI that rivals Hasbro's ability to do this. So hopefully they're willing to let some of that, let some of those resources or some of those things that they've learned and improved upon work for this game too. It is worth noting that Chinese versions of these cards, both in terms of the trial decks and the starter decks, are currently available through a number of different eBay sellers. Several of us have purchased some of these cards from Chinese individuals through eBay, and they've shown up, they've arrived, they're real, they're very pretty.
And of course, they are in Chinese. So
yeah, and like we bought some for some of us just to like I want some just to have the originals.
Right.
but I'm not gonna.
You wanna just be like, I was there on the ground floor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna buy a bunch though. Like,
No. If they release it in English, okay. Then maybe a little bit more whaling. But we don't have a date for when that will happen yet.
nope.
All the more reason to get into the community while it's starting out here. So as news does come out and people follow or hear announcements from different sources, we can share it. And everyone can learn and everyone can be excited about what's coming next.
One thing that is important to note here is that you do not have to speak Chinese or resort to ChatGPT at every interaction here. The mods for Tabletop Sim handle the translation with our current best understanding.
Yeah, I was showing. I don't think I said anything, but I was showing that off in the when I had it up.
But that is important to call out. So you do not need to know Chinese to play this.
That being said, if you do know Chinese and you want to play this, please come help.
Please.
But Grandpa's, how can I come help?
Are you going to link it?
I mean, it would seem to be pertinent, yes.
Where's the link? There's the link.
Come join the thing. We have a thing.
Who's going to paste it?
Yep.
I feel like we're good. 4 people are going to paste it all at the same time.
No, I'm waiting. I'm waiting. Okay, well now I'm going to paste it too.
Oh my.
Yeah, we have a Discord, and we are definitely howling at the moon.
You're gonna make me go find my Twitch account so I can paste it.
Too late.
Just use your Amazon account that you pretend not to have.
I don't have an Amazon account.
Wow, he's really good at pretending.
Yeah, so we may or may not run something at an event at like in person in the future. Although probably definitely not before there's English versions.
Yeah, it's really going to depend on how soon we can get some translated cards.
And who knows? Maybe Hasbro will or kind of whatever will show up at the con without telling anybody.
That would be highly amusing.
It would be. It also feels very Hasbro.
Let's see, that would be... Everfree would probably be the first con in line for that, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a chance that they show up.
This could be incredibly funny.
All right, who wants to do Continentals, raise your hand. Who wants to do Caillou, raise your hand. All right, Continentals is now Caillou.
Surprise.
Caillou-tals.
Oh, yeah, except they would actually mean something there, because then you'd be like, okay, and now I get to go to Worlds?
Right, by the way, if you're interested in learning this game and you happen to have a visa for China, maybe let us know, because we're kind of putting together.
We're going to do, we got to get the, tracksuits or whatever.
Yes,
Oh.
exactly. I'm just going to wear my Naham t-shirt. Anyway.
The one time Hitrock has an easier time getting
Right.
the visa.
Right. I think that will about wrap up our discussion.
Oh, we
on this
actually had
topic.
we had one other thing.
Do we have something else? Go for it. I'm sorry, I missed something.
There's a new Pony Head equivalent deck
Oh
builder
yeah,
in development
forgot about that.
by a professional. Well, I guess Cider is also professional, but that was also developed 10 years ago and hasn't really been touched since. But so a more modern deck builder is in development. This is by Minty is working on this. Not available yet, but
But soon.
actively in development, and it was written to modern web standards, so it might actually work on a phone.
Yeah.
How about that?
Ooh.
Revolution concept.
Yeah, like the original Pony had has
has-
had a lot of stuff done to it in the 10 years since
Yeah.
it was built.
It has served us well.
Yeah.
We may also get a new pony head out of this, possibly. We'll see.
That would be cool. Okay. With
All right.
that now mentioned, I think it'll wrap up our discussion.
Anyway, come to Everfree.
Yes, come to Everfree. Maybe
Please.
there will be Caillou cards there. Who knows? We'll see. We would like to give a big shout out to all of our patrons on Patreon. Thank you so much for your regular support. If you aren't currently a patron and you enjoy what we do, please consider donating. Doing so does enable us to continue making content like this and lets you earn some great perks as a bonus. If you have comments or questions you'd like to send our way, feel free to reach out to us through Facebook, Twitter, or email. And if you're a patron, you can also chat live with us on Discord any day, anytime. What? That's a different script. Yeah, we're
Rip
on.
Slack,
Oh,
all
hey.
hail Discord.
Yeah, we killed Slack. It's gone.
It would have been funny if you still said Slack.
We'll invite you to the Slack, but there's nothing there.
Right.
I don't think you can send messages.
Nope. Finally, if you're looking to watch any of our previous videos, including tournament recordings, you can find them on our YouTube channel, linked just below the stream. With all that said, thank you to each and every one of our viewers, both here now and watching this recording later. We are, as always, Commentary is Magic. I am, as always, Grandpaws.
Big Cheese?
Our cat and
And Thorax.
Thorax doesn't
Thorax.
exist and can't hurt you.
Thorax exists and will hurt you. You only, though.
Bye.
Emotionally.
His existence hurts me. He's not actually going to do anything, though, because he's, Thorax. That, anyway.
Bye.